Hello everyone. Welcome to Enterprise Bank Presents Dollars and Cents. I'm Carla Stover, your host today, and I work with Enterprise Bank, and I'm also a board member of ActonTV. We have an important show for you today with a very, very important and timely topic, and we have some great guests. We hope that you will stay with us till the end of the show because this is an important topic to pay attention to. First, I will introduce our guests. Prema Nagathan, who is a security director with Enterprise Bank, my colleague.
Thanks,
and
Carla.
Detective Chris Browne with the Acton Police. Thank you so much, Prema and Detective Browne, for being here with us tonight.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
Thank you. So this is a very, very important issue going on right now. It's an ongoing issue of fraud and is affecting so many businesses, and especially our elderly population. So Detective Browne, I'm going to start with you, and I would love for you to share with us some of the most common fraud schemes targeting our elderly population.
Sure.
Would you be able to do that?
Sure. Thank you for having me.
You're welcome.
It is a very important topic. I know from our investigations throughout the years, we literally have hundreds of thousands of dollars that are given away in these scams, taken away. A lot of the population and victims are elderly. If I can give you some statistics from what we have, from 2020, we have 563 incidents.
Wow.
From 2021, 237. From 2022, 209. And so far this year, we have 115,000. And the elderly are often a victim.
Yeah.
One of the biggest scams that we have going on now, especially with the elderly, is what they call the grandparent scam. Where you'll get a phone call or an email, it's mainly a phone call, claiming that your granddaughter, your grandson was in an accident. The storyline seems to be the same for all of these scams. The accident usually involves a car accident, usually out of state or out of country, so that you have no way to get to there. It usually involves a pregnant female who's lost their baby. Always seems to be the same thing. Again, pulling on your heartstrings. And then it is either an attorney or a bonds bailsman, who they claim to be, and they are asking for money so that your granddaughter or grandson can be bailed, or there's a problem with civil liability and they need to bring forth some money for the death that they were involved in. And they usually send a carrier to your home to pick it up, and you'll never see it again.
So it seems like the situations are always an emergency, and in our elderly population, they're being rushed
Immediate action
to take action immediately. Wow. So what would you advise people to do in situations like that? What would be the first thing to do?
The best thing is to contact your granddaughter or your grandson. I think you'll find majority of time, almost all the time, that they'll be going about their business, and they'll be fine. But check in with them first. Don't take what you hear over the phone. Check in with them. Check in with family. Make sure everyone's all right, and contact your local authority.
Thank you, Prema. So, what would your best advice be on ways that people can protect themselves? And are there other types of fraud that you've been seeing out there?
Absolutely.
That you'd like to share?
Yeah. Thank you, Carla, for that question. We could sit here all day talking about the different types of fraud schemes because there's just so many out there. The grandparent scam happens to be one of them that Detective Browne just talked about. And I remember I got a call from a branch not too long ago where they had a customer that they know very well, and that's one of the things we pride on, is knowing our customers, knowing them by their first names, which becomes such a big strategy in preventing some of the fraud that our customers may experience. So we got a call in the security department where this individual elderly customer was there to withdraw cash. Thankfully, in having conversation with the branch staff, they were able to identify that it was the grandson that's, was driving drunk, was arrested. Wow. And he's like, I have to help my grandchild. Which grandparent wouldn't want to help their grandchild, right? So he was there to withdraw $10,000 in cash. Suddenly, when they started to see those red flags, we were able to sort of contact the customer and the local law enforcement. But then the first thing we said is, call your grandson right now, and let's see what's going on, because we wanted the customer to realize what really was happening. because he was in a rush to try and help the grandson because, the attorney is calling, we need to post bail. There was a huge sense of urgency. So he called the grandson on the phone and he said, "Grandpa, I'm in Boston." That's where he works. He said, "I'm in my office sitting at my desk just doing my work. I haven't had any problems or running with the law. That wasn't me who called you." And so quickly, just that taking that one additional step really prevented not only that $10,000 loss, but potentially much more, because sometimes they'll come back and say, "Oh, this wasn't enough. Now we need more money," because once they know they've got you, they'll try to go for more.
They'll try for more, yes.
But to add on to more of those fraud, Carla, is, just recently we had a situation with another elderly customer. She is very active in the community. She drives. She lives independently. So very active elder in our community. And, she was coming into the branch making a lot of cash withdrawals, and we started to ask some questions, and just having those conversations led to us to find out that she had received a call for who she believed to be Xfinity, but it was not. Oh, wow. And oftentimes these individuals, the fraudsters, will use names of legitimate businesses, or they'll say they're from law enforcement, or they might say, "I'm from Enterprise Bank," because they want to make it sound like it's real. So she's thought that she was having problems with her Wi-Fi connectivity, and they had convinced her that they can give her a good, strong Wi-Fi connection in her home. But to do that, she had to send them gift cards, Bitcoins. These are some of the ways that the fraudsters are trying to get quick, easy, and sure shot access to your money. So when any agency or someone or a business that you're calling, your electricity bill company, it could be National Grid, under that pretext, if someone's saying, "Hey, to fix a problem," or "to fix this for you," or "you paid something that you shouldn't have," but to get you your money back or to give you that service, if they're asking you for gift cards, if they're asking you for Bitcoins, if they're asking you for money orders, really should be a big red flag. So in this case, our customer was sending thousands of dollars in Bitcoins and gift cards to this individual that she thought was Xfinity. In this case, it clearly had nothing to do with the real Xfinity company, to just get Wi-Fi bill. Now, here's the other interesting part. They had convinced our customer to tell different stories to the bank. So it was, "Oh, I'm helping my grandson fix his house. That's why I need this money." She never initially was upfront about the true reason. And what she believed, or they had her believe, was she had signed a non-disclosure agreement with the company to not discuss that. Now, if you think about it, it's just a Wi-Fi connectivity. There's nothing confidential about it. So when they say, "Don't tell anybody," "Don't tell your family," "Don't tell your bankers," what they're trying to do is isolate that victim, I'll use the word victim in this case, so that they don't share the information. So when they talk to us, and we might be able to guide them and prevent them from sending the money. So they try to isolate them so they can really get them to understand that, "Oh, we need to work on this so we can get your money." So
sounds like the people behind these schemes, they're very convincing, because they're able to a lot of times convince,
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, Detective Browne, you can speak to the organized crime, right?
Yeah, there's a lot of information on the internet about you, whether you know it or not.
Yeah.
Just simple things, where you live, sometimes phone numbers, your children's names on Facebook or social media sites. They can get a lot of information about you. And they'll use that when speaking with you. And they're salesmen. They'll sweet tooth you. And they can talk you into things. And as you said, Prema, one of the major things about that is they will often tell you, don't tell law enforcement, don't tell anything. If you do, it will wreck your ability to do this or to get it done. Or that's a common trend.
Wow.
In a lot of these.
Wow, it's Prema, you're telling me the story about the Xfinity one, and I was definitely surprised that happened to this customer.
And it very quickly stacked up.
And that she
to
was
thousands.
convinced that
She was
the whole
convinced.
thing was legit.
Right.
And it can happen to anyone, right? Because people are out there calling you and calling our elderly population, and a lot of times I think they're alone, right, at home.
Right.
And I believe that sometimes they might be looking for some social interaction in some cases. and they become easy targets
Absolutely.
for the bad people, for
and
the
this
bad
doesn't
guys.
happen from like one conversation with the individual. They're calling them and talking to them
Yeah.
over hours.
A period
a
of
phone
time
call,
sometimes.
Right. And you know, this is where I urge family members can play a big part in preventing
Yeah.
some of these losses that our elderly population is facing. Is just, you know, if you're a caregiver for an elder, asking questions. If you look around, if you're seeing bills from local stores that they can't explain, I think, you know, that is something that I really think the family members can play a very big part in preventing some of these losses.
I think what you just said, Prema, it's interesting because it reminded me of some situations I've heard of in the past, where clients, you know, especially, you know, elderlies, they tend to be they feel uncomfortable telling someone that they fell victim of a scheme.
Right.
Do you see that happening a lot?
We see a lot of stigma. You know, sometimes, you know, Detective Browne, you've reported those cases, the statistics. Those are the reported cases.
Correct.
A lot of them, I think, we'll both agree, go unreported because there's a sense of embarrassment. I don't want to tell anyone that this happened to me. And, you know, one of the things we want to do with shows like this is remove that stigma of falling victim to a scam. We want to share this. If we'll encourage our customers is if this happened to you, please share this with your family, share this with your friends. We go out to senior centers. They've done so many outreach to senior centers so we can get the information, talk about the story. We are only today focusing on elder exploitation, but quite honestly, in the fraud department that we work, we see people of all ages fall victim to scams.
Yeah.
I feel fraudsters don't really discriminate against age or gender. They'll target anyone, and we're seeing a lot of people of all different ages really lose a lot of money to these scams. So
I see that happening. I get a lot of calls myself and text messages too, trying to fish information. And obviously, being in the industry, working as a banker, we are constantly getting updated on what's going on. And so we are more prepared for those situations, right? And I think if you're not, and you're not seeing it happening, if we're not talking about it, there is more of a chance that people will fall victim to this scheme. So, well, hi everyone. We're gonna just take a little break right now, and we'll definitely come back soon to continue to discuss this important topic.
Hi, we're the Oak Ridge Boys.
Scammers steal billions of dollars from unsuspecting people every year.
We are working with AARP's Fraud Watch Network and the Department of Justice to keep you from being a victim of fraud.
They have vital information for you.
They will help you get in touch with folks that fight fraud every day.
Go to aarp.org/FraudWatchNetwork.
Welcome back, everyone, to Enterprise Bank Presents Dollars and Cents. So I was speaking with Prema and Detective Browne about all the fraud schemes that have been going on, and we're also discussing some ways to really protect yourself against fraud, and you know, really just ask yourself, does the situation make sense? So Detective Browne, you were talking to us during the break about some situations regarding gift cards. Can you please, share more details with us?
Yes. I guess the best thing about gift cards, most of these schemes go through payments by gift cards. Gift cards are hard to track down. It's instant cash. Once they get it and turn it in, it's gone. So it's difficult to trace. If I can tell anybody, once gift cards are for gifts. They are not for payments of
Great point.
of utilities or of business payments or anything. They are gifts. And once businesses or companies or for duty or jobs done want gift cards, that should be a major red flag that there's something, this is probably a scam that's going on.
Thank you. Prema, anything else on your end that you'd like to share?
Oh boy, there are a lot of preventative strategies, and I really want to say is we're all empowered to really put a stop to a lot of these fraud schemes. But before I get into a little bit of the preventative steps, what next? What if you fell victim? What next? I think we want to talk a little bit more about some of the other couple different really big fraud schemes that we kind of talked about during the break.
Oh,
Maybe
you've
we
mentioned
talk
the
a little bit
romance
about
one
that.
too,
There
as well.
are many going on.
Yeah.
One of them is romance. You'll always find that it'll be somebody who will contact you. It is often someone who is trying to get, has no bank account, is trying to get money, wants you to go through you to get money through a bank account. Will say all the right things on social media, on your sites, on the emails. You will find you will never be able to meet them. They'll always say they're going to meet you, but it never happens. But in order to get that, they need more money to get someplace, or they'll send you money to try to, because they claim they can't send it through a bank account, to send it to somebody else who's often another end of their collection. So those you have to watch for. You'll never be able to meet them. They'll never see you. The lottery and the sweepstakes scams are all out there.
Yeah.
If you, and I'm just picking on ones that we have, if you didn't enter the Canadian lottery, you're not going to be a winner. There's a lot of Russian lotteries going on. And you'll see that they'll always provide you a big piece of paper that is all you, and you can get it from all the internet. They'll just cut and paste and make a big diploma type. You've won. This is your.
Yeah.
If you didn't enter, it didn't happen. And then they will ask you to pay taxes and all the rest. And again, they'll ask you to pay these things by
Like
gift
inheritance,
cards.
right?
Right.
I think
and they'll ask you to pay by gift cards. And again, the government doesn't accept gift cards or anything like that. That should be a red flag that there's a problem. If I can just go over one other one,
Yes,
Carla.
absolutely. Go ahead.
A lot of stuff that you're buying on the the marketplaces, if you're receiving checks, or the people are buying your property or whatever, and you're receiving checks that are over the asking price, it's usually a scam of send a little bit back, but keep 100 for yourself. We will find that most of those checks are fraud, and what happens, and you can discuss it more, the bank ends up calling you back saying this wasn't the check you cashed for $8,000. We need the $8,000 back, and that should be a red flag. Don't cash it. Don't do business with that person.
Yeah.
You're in a scam.
Right.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing. Prema, I think we've seen some of those cases quite often, actually.
We do work on a lot of these cases together, Carla. And when you get a call from your bank that said the check you deposited 3 days ago bounced, and customers are oftentimes surprised. How come? But this person purchased an iPhone that I was selling online, and it was for $300. They made a mistake and added an extra zero. Oops, that's kind of like the story. I don't know. When I write a check, I'm looking and checking it, making sure I didn't put an extra cent in there. But here, this person accidentally added an extra zero, and they send them $3,000 instead of $300, and they say, "I'm so sorry to put you through all this trouble. Deposit this into your bank. You keep the $300. You know what? Keep a couple of extra $100 because of all the trouble I put you through, and you can wire me back the remainder of the 2,000 something back." Honest people will think, "Oh, that's not my money. I need to send it back to the owner of the check," which they do. Unfortunately, it ends up overdrawing their account, and they become liable to the bank to pay the money back. And that is something that we see happen quite often. So, in a lot of those cases, I feel if you can go and discuss with your bank and say, this is a really unusual situation. I was doing this online, and this person sent me this check. Having had that little bit of a background knowledge, I think as a bank, whether it's Enterprise or any bank that you bank with, the banker can actually help you, whether it's placing an extended hold on the check because it's a suspicious item, give it a little extra time, make sure you don't send the money back right away. There's a lot of preventative things we can do even after you feel you've somehow gotten involved with a scam. I also want to talk about another scheme that we're seeing a lot of our customers fall is these days we all have laptops, we all have smartphones, so our devices have become another way for fraudsters to get to us, is a Microsoft scam.
Yep.
You're online, you see a pop-up, or you're looking at an email, or you're on a website, you see a pop-up, there's a couple different things. One, it might say, this is your Microsoft, you click on a link, and then they might say, oh, you're having a problem with is your laptop slow? I think all of us feel like we want more speed on our laptops than we normally, sign up for, which I think is for the most part sufficient. But you say, oh yeah, it's really slow, then they try to be like the technical support team trying to fix your laptop for you. But through that process of doing that, not only do they have access to your laptop now, they get access to your online banking because you're allowing that access. They'll make it look like there was a payment coming through. Oh, we need to reverse your feedback. They just confuse the persons to the point where they think they're getting their money back, but they're actually sending out more money. Their email, their online banking has now been compromised. So, want folks listening today to sort of look out for those types of schemes as well. But now going into, I fell victim to a scheme. Someone called me on the phone. I gave my information away.
What do you do?
What do you do?
Now? What do you do now?
What do you do? So I would say look out for someone asking. Of course, we talked about gift cards and Bitcoins a lot today because that's the big way. But the other thing too is your personal information is very valuable to the fraudsters because they can use it for a lot of different things. So when someone's asking you for your bank information, such as account numbers, passwords, PINs on your debit cards, those are information that is very specific to each individual customer, and the customer should be the only one that knows passwords, PIN numbers.
We don't even know, right,
We
Prema?
don't even know that.
We don't ask for their password.
And we don't need it.
We don't need
to
it.
serve a customer,
Yeah.
you don't need the password.
Exactly.
There are times when we have to verify their information. If they're calling us on the phone, yes, of course. But like your customer did not just, I think you were mentioning that, right?
Yeah,
There was
I had a
situation-
customer who actually,
Yeah.
I had to call this customer to just verify an address. And they were very careful and decided that they wanted to call the bank back because they didn't recognize my voice. They didn't know me as well. And they're like, you know what? I'm going to call the bank back to confirm that this is a call from the bank. And I thought that was, that was
Very
great.
good.
I was very proud of that customer because I'm like, they're careful. They're paying attention to what's going on.
Yeah, and that's a really good practice because, you might be receiving calls from people that they say who, from a legitimate company, a business or a bank. But how do you know it is Carla from Enterprise Bank?
Yeah.
Be suspicious of that. And if Carla or Prema are calling you, we completely understand and appreciate when customers say, I don't know who you are, I'm going to have to call you back. Now, don't call the number that's on your caller ID, the number that you or I or the fraudster might be calling you. Look up on Enterprise Bank for the phone number. Your debit
On the
card
back
has
of
our
your
phone
card.
number.
Yep, yeah.
Your statement has the bank's phone number.
Yeah.
So there's proper ways to get the phone number for your financial institution. And then you call and say, hey, I received a call from you, I think. What's going on with my account? Now you have initiated that information. Now you're more comfortable sharing your information to be validated as a customer. And now we know who you are, and then we can have that conversation. So I think that was a really good practice that our customers following, and I hope a lot more customers do that. So going back to, again, when to be wary, don't give your passwords, even your email passwords, none of that should be given. But let's say it does happen. Sometimes we get caught up in the moment,
I've had customers who called us because they're like, I just gave my information to someone and I think it was a fraudster.
Right. And sometimes
So-
it's not too late. Call your bank.
Yeah.
Call your bank. And I'll give you an example of another type of fraud scheme that also talks about preventative measures. And this was what we call the driveway scam. Especially in the summers, we see individuals going up and down residential areas saying, I'll fix a driveway for you. I've been fixing your neighbor's driveway and I have stuff left over and I'll do it 50% off. I want to do that. Most of the times I think it's a fraud. And these are individuals who do that to defraud customers and people in the town. So in this case, it was an elderly woman living by herself, and this individual approached her doorstep and said he was going to fix her driveway for just a few $100. She said, fine, you look like a fine, nice man. Why don't you do that? So he was there in her driveway for a couple of hours, and then he came up to her door and said, okay, the work's done. This is going to cost you $2,000. What happened to the couple $100 to now $2,000? So clearly he was trying to defraud this unsuspecting elder who lives by herself. She felt a little intimidated. She didn't know what to do. She felt like if she didn't give him what this person wanted, her safety was at risk. So out of the intimidation, she wrote a check out for $2,000 and gave it to this individual, and he drove off. As soon as she did that and he drove off, she called the bank. And she said, I just want you to know, this is what happened. So immediately what we were able to do, having had that background information, we were able to put a stop on the check and then also alert our branches So sure enough, within 20 minutes, that individual was in a branch attempting to cash
Wow.
that check, and guess who was waiting for him? Our law enforcement
I hope so.
partners.
Yay.
Yes.
Hopefully it was you, Detective Browne.
So, you know, there is still a potential, and kudos to our customer who thought of it as, you know, there was still, so she didn't lose a dime. And then of course now we had the suspect, and they were able to, you know, investigate and
Yeah.
make sure that this didn't happen to other individuals. Or if you had that Microsoft scheme and you think you gave access to the person on the phone or that was on your computer, again, being upfront, telling your bank what happened, so we can now maybe open a new account for you, change your password and PIN numbers.
Yeah.
There's so many things that can be done, but time is of the essence.
It is.
Yeah. Yeah.
Once you
absolutely.
give access to your accounts, the money can be gone. You know, all your
Yeah.
hard-earned money can be gone within minutes. And
Yeah.
it's the timing of letting your bank know. Law enforcement are our partners in this, and I can't really emphasize that anymore. Is how critical it is that they report, be honest about telling us what has happened, so we can now look at the scenario and say what can we do to protect and prevent losses from happening.
Absolutely. Detective, thank you, Prema. Detective Browne, we were talking about the romance scheme earlier. Would you be able to share with us like one, just quickly, like one example, like that you can remember of how it went down?
Yeah,
and-
they have a way. It was on one of the dating sites. They just had the right things to say. It was someone who was looking for companionship, but then it broke into I'm in another country. They use the military a lot. I'm in the military. I can't get over. I'm overseas. Again, that's pulling heartstrings and patriotism. And can you do this with my money? Can you send it someplace? And it's usually being sent to them in a different way.
Okay. And usually it takes a little while for them to kind of gain the trust of that person.
It does.
Correct?
They'll be on for months.
Wow.
Months. I've had years.
Yeah, I've heard. I've actually had a customer who was affected by one of those schemes too. So, well, thank you so much,
Yes.
Prema.
Thank you.
And Detective
You're
Browne
very
for
welcome.
being with us today. Thank you, everyone, for listening. We hope that all the stories and tips and ways to prevent fraud that were shared today with you will be helpful. If you get a phone call, if anyone comes to you with an emergency, just think about, does this make sense? And then call your bank, call a trusted family member, or call someone that can help you, or call law enforcement.
Yep.
Law enforcement. Thank you, everyone.